Welcome to Doing Business Gently. If you're a woman over 50 who has built a business alongside personal health challenges, caregiving, and the ever-changing world of entrepreneurship, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Marta, and on this show, we talk about building a simple and sustainable business that fits your current season of life and doing that gently from a place of rest. Welcome back to the series on rest and the entrepreneur, rest and the chronically capable entrepreneur. So far, we've covered mental, emotional, physical rest, and now we're going to go a little bit deeper because you can get a lot of mental rest and emotional rest and physical rest and still feel disconnected. You can still feel like something is off, and that's a time to look at spiritual rest. Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith wrote the book Sacred Rest, and she describes spiritual rest as having a sense of belonging, of knowing that life has meaning and purpose. And for many of us, that does mean being a part of a faith-based community, a church. But for others, it also may include volunteering or being a part of something bigger than themselves. And for a lot of us, that includes our business, that we're connected to why we're in business, who we are serving, the problem we are solving. Because we're connected to our business in that respect. We are definitely part of something that is bigger than ourselves. So when we take a step back and look at what spiritual rest includes, of course, the first thing that for many of us that pops to mind is this the idea of Sabbath. And we know that the word Sabbath and observing the Sabbath shows up so much in the Old Testament, but it also shows up quite a bit in the New Testament. For instance, in Mark 2:27, and then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So observing Sabbath, of taking time to stop doing what you do on an everyday basis, is something that was made for us. We were made to rest. And when we look at it that way, resting here is like a retreat. It's a strategic withdrawal from the everyday to gather together your resources. And so it's often viewed as obedience, as trust, as stewardship, because it's not something that you earn by doing something. The Sabbath was made for man, so it's just something that's been given to us. And that's something we shouldn't ignore. And so when we're looking at our business and we're looking at why we are tired, why we feel exhausted, why we show up at our desk and we feel disconnected. A lot of times when we are that exhausted, we are disconnected. And so it's time to take a look. And are we connected to our why? Are we connected to our purpose and our mission and our vision? And this is why we recommend doing a regular review of your business, at least on a quickly on a weekly basis, but more in depth on a monthly, quarterly, or even a yearly basis, because we do change. Because as we've been talking about, a lot of us have gone through some pretty intense caregiving seasons, personal health challenges, business growth, or frustration with our business. So as we look at spiritual rest, let's look at it definitely as prayer, of setting aside time to talk to God. And a lot of times what we need more of than just talking to God is listening. A lot of us are terrible listeners because we know how to get things done. We know the next thing on our to-do list. We know we have goals to meet in our business. We know we have clients who are needing our help. So spiritual rest is prayer time. It is absolutely setting aside time to pray, to have our business meetings with God. Sometimes it is also about what I call business hushing. It's getting outside of the noise of what's coming at us, of email and social media, our, coaches, podcasts, AI, comparisonitis. And a lot of times we need to set aside time to just be, and to be able to do that with prayer, of reading our Bibles, of going through a Lectio Divina, of going to church, of joining a community of other Christian entrepreneurs. This can be an amazing way to incorporate spiritual rest into your life on a regular basis. And when you build a business and a rest plan on that as a Christian entrepreneur, that is the best foundation that you can build your business on. And when you're taking the time to bring your business, bring your exhaustion, bring your questions to the Lord, that's the best way to start. But in those moments where he's speaking to you and showing to you, and I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and the speaker was reminding us that listening and bringing our business to God and our questions to God, he doesn't show up in the storms and the noise. He shows up in the quiet, whispering moments. And so we do have to rest. We do have to be still in order to hear that voice. So when you're doing a regular review of your business and you are checking on your goals, don't forget to check. Are you on mission? Do you understand your purpose? Do you understand your vision? Has it changed? And I've been thinking about this one a lot lately because I know for me, the purpose and the vision and the mission of my business has changed dramatically this year. With a lot of things that happened in 2025 and a significant shift in my life earlier here in 2026, things have changed and I have struggled with that change. And that's also contributed to my feeling of rest and unease at times. And it's only been through setting aside time to rest on an intentional basis, to ask the tough questions, to pray over them, to go into community and get feedback on them with people I trust, with women I trust, with women and coaches whose opinions I trust. That is a form of spiritual rest because I'm connecting with something that's bigger than myself. That is connecting me with a purpose and a mission. And sometimes it's me helping them, and sometimes it's them helping me, and sometimes we're helping each other because we're listening, we're asking questions, we're acknowledging this is tough. You are going through a tough season. That's an amazing gift, and that can be an incredible version of spiritual rest. When you are ready to incorporate spiritual rest into your business schedule, into your personal schedule, there's a lot of things that you could do. And one of the big things I want to remind you of is that prayer is an action step. Prayer is a simple, doable rhythm that you can add to your day multiple times a day. You can actually set aside time on an intentional, regular basis to have that business meeting with God, where you are showing up and asking questions about your business. Where are you stuck? How's your purpose changed? How's your mission changed? Is there something that the Lord needs to reveal to you that something has changed in your business? It could be joining community. It could be joining a community where you can get together with a group of women and talk about your business. Because a lot of times we get as much and probably more from going out and helping someone than actually being helped. A lot of times you learn more by helping someone else than being taught. And when you're out in community and you're showing up in the life of someone else, not only is that spiritual rest, but a lot of times it's going to give you emotional and mental rest because you're out there focusing on someone else. So community, that could be a church, that can be an organization, that can be a community like the Gentle Business Mastermind, which, side note, is now being called the Gentle Business Collective. You'll be hearing more about that later. But it's about getting in connection with a group of people, with people that you trust, that are on the same journey as you of learning simplicity, of learning to streamline their business, of learning to work from a place of rest. And being in a place where people might call you on the carpet and say, you know what, you need to slow down. You need to step back. You need to take a break. And when you can also do that, take that same step for somebody else, it really is an amazing gift. So community can come in many different shapes and forms, and it also can be an incredible part of spiritual rest. Journaling, and journaling specifically about your business. Journaling can help you in so many ways, and I have a series, and I will link to the series of journaling for business. And sometimes it's about where is your stress coming from? What are the business decisions you're struggling with? There's a lot of ways journaling can come in to help you process emotions. You can use it as a prayer journal, ask questions. There's so many things you can do with journaling. And there's something that happens when you take pen to paper, that the actual chemistry in your brain changes. There's some amazing studies. If you Google journaling by hand, you will see amazing studies of where they hook up wires to people's heads, and they can scan what the brain is doing of typing on a keyboard versus writing pen to paper. So journaling is an amazing way to slow down, to rest, and process. And none of this has to be complicated. I never want you to consider rest to be complicated, to take a retreat to be complicated. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 5 minutes of sitting with a verse, writing it out, praying over it, or maybe doing a Lectio Divina. Maybe it's taking a prompt a day and journaling through it. Maybe it's showing up in community and asking or answering a question. When we talk about rest, and especially with spiritual rest, this is not another to-do list item. Rest and self-care and retreats are so valuable for our schedule, and to learn to do business gently, to have a gentle and sustainable business, and to avoid toxic hustle. But when it comes to how we do this, it's become a checklist item. It's become a pin on Pinterest that says 24 ways to do self-care this weekend. So it is not a to-do item. It is about setting aside time on a regular basis, whether it be 5 minutes, 30 minutes. I had a client reach out the other day, and she was talking about her favorite way to rest is whenever she can, is to go out on her porch with her notebook, with her Bible, and have her devotions for about an hour a day. If you can do that, that is amazing. But never let comparisonitis show up and let you think that your 5 minutes of time to rest is any less than an hour on the porch. When you are setting aside time to pray over your business, or you're setting aside time to review your business and look at your calling, look at your purpose, look at your vision, answering a journaling prompt about your business, showing up in community to get help or to serve. There are so many simple ways you can show up and give yourself spiritual rest. So I hope you are encouraged here that you know now that you do need mental rest, you need emotional rest, you need physical rest, and you absolutely need spiritual rest. For those of us who are believers, we need God in our business. But we also need to be part of community. We need to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves. And that in our business, that can be part of our clients. That can be showing up in community of other entrepreneurs, but a place where we can connect, where we can belong, and we feel like we are part of something that is for the greater good. So I hope you take time this week, and this would be my challenge to you, is set aside 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and do one thing. Pray, journal, or jump into a safe community where you can show up and just be seen and heard or go serve. So as we wrap up this series, 2 things for you. 1, I have the rest quiz for you. It starts with rest.com/quiz. Go take that. It'll just take you a few minutes, and you are going to get a detailed report on the type of rest that you are needing right now, the kind that you need to focus on right now. It'll tell you which of those types of rest that you need. Also, in a next episode, I have a special bonus episode coming out for you. Back in July, I hosted an amazing discussion, the SELA sessions, which was for rest for the chronically capable entrepreneur. And it was an amazing panel discussion where I brought on 3 special guests, and we talked about rest and how it shows up in so many different ways. And understanding the type of rest you need is vital to your sanity, to your business. And with all 3 women, and 4 if you include me, each panelist had a completely different take on what rest looks like for them. Rest is a individual need, it's an individual personality, and also as an individual season, and how rest changes for us throughout the season. So I hope you'll join me in the next episode. I think you'll get a lot out of it. The feedback from the attendees was amazing. A lot of women went back and listened to it again because there was so much that was shared, and the panelists that came on shared their hearts for what does it look like to rest, what does rest look like to them, and how rest has changed throughout the seasons. So thank you for joining me in this series about rest. Join me in the next episode as we listen to our panelists talk about rest.